A Cook County judge has ordered that Raylon East remain behind bars for what he calls the cold and calculated murder of two of his former co-workers. Raylon East is behind bars tonight, charged with the fatal shootings of two ex-co-workers at Navy Pier earlier this week. The 36-year-old South Shore resident has been charged with first-degree murder, an unlawful use of a weapon by a felon in connection with the November 5th slayings. East turned himself in a few days later and was arrested after authorities released images of him on public transportation. Investigators describe East as a disgruntled employee who worked for the Navy Restaurants, a hospitality and catering company, before he was fired on October 29th. The company says since being hired just over a year ago, East had been reprimanded for multiple verbal and physical aggressions toward his coworkers. In court, prosecutors say after being let go weeks earlier, East left his Southside home that morning, dressed in his cook's uniform, and used public transportation to go to Navy Pier. Detectives say that's how he was able to gain entry into the business. Once inside, he went into a private office area near the loading dock. Prosecutors say he confronted his former co-workers, 51-year-old Lamont Johnson and 47-year-old Peter Jennings, and shot both of them in the head. The victims, who later died at the hospital of their wounds, were eventually discovered by other employees. Meanwhile, authorities say East threw the weapon he allegedly used in the murders into the lake before taking public transportation to flee. Chicago Police Department divers recovered the weapon. Chicago police launched an exhaustive search. Investigators say the Kenwood High School graduate dressed in several layers of clothing to commit the murders. Authorities released security and surveillance images of a person they say was Raylon East, discarding different items of clothing at various times to avoid detection. Police say Raylon East is a convicted felon who was sentenced to 8 years in prison for aggravated robbery. He has no valid FOID card and is not a licensed concealed carry holder. If convicted, East could be sentenced to life in prison. He returns to court next week.